Welcome to the video tutorial of my life planner. I've recently updated this spreadsheet to include this budget dashboard here, and I've added an extra tab called budget here. So the way this template works, for all of your finances and budget setup, please go to the budget sheet. So to set up your finances categories and to log any of your expenses, everything should be done in this budget sheet. And then the setup tab is to set up categories for the rest of the sheets. Then everything will be summarized in the dashboard tab. So the way it works as a general rule, please only edit and fill out white cells. Do not edit colored cells. So some of the colored cells contains formula because they're automatic calculation. So for example, if you accidentally edit some of the cells in color and you're not meant to enter the amount there, please select cancel. Although these cells are not locked, so if you meant to edit them, you can always check this box and click OK. But in this instance, I don't want to edit it, so select cancel. So this budget sheet can be used for any budget cycle. So if you want a monthly budget, this is the example for monthly budget. Please enter the start date, the first of the month, and please enter the end date as the last date of the month. So to do that, you want to double click. So for example, if it's July, then I will select the 1st of July. Sorry, that's August. And then please don't forget to select the end of the month. So if you can, of course, use this for like weekly budget, bi-weekly budget, for weekly budget. So yeah, there's some flexibility because you can select both dates. So for example, if I want it to be weekly budget, I can choose 3rd of July. So if the start date is 3rd of July, then the end date is 9th of July. And then if it's a bi-weekly budget, then I can choose, so the start date is 3rd of July and the end date is the 16th. So for the purpose of this video tutorial, I want it to be monthly budget of June. So what is start balance? Start balance is the remaining funds you have from the previous cycle. So in this instance, my start balance from the month of May is $55. That $55 is actually the end balance of the month of May. So please enter any remaining funds that you have left over from previous cycle, whatever you put the cycle here. So to give you an overview of the spreadsheet, so you have income table here where you have 10 income categories, saving table here where you have 10 saving categories, and you have the expenses breakdown where you have variable expenses such as eating out, groceries, shoppings, and so on. You have your bills like utilities, rent, and so on, like including subscriptions as well. And then you have debt. So each of these expenses have 25 categories. Okay, now, so one of the first things you need to do is to enter your categories for your income, savings, and expenses. I will talk about the income a bit later, but yeah, please enter your categories in your savings. These are fully editable, so you can delete and rename them anything. So yeah, please do that to each of these table here. Again, you can rename and edit to whatever suit your needs. So after you do that, please enter your budget or allowance to each of your categories in the variable expenses, bills, and debt. So remember, when entering your budget or allowance, they are for the period that you've selected between the start and the end date here. So in this instance, these are my monthly budget or my monthly allowance. And that's the same. You can enter your monthly goal saving of the month for your holiday here, for example, $200 and so on. And then these are your projected income of the month. If you choose these dates to be weekly or bi-weekly, then please bear in mind that your budget should also reflect that. Then all of this budget will be your weekly budget or bi-weekly budget. So whatever the period you choose in these dates. So the same case applies for the actual bills, the actual debt, your actual savings, and your actual income. They're all should base on this period here. Now, how to set up your income? So in this example, I have a bi-weekly income. And for the month of June, I have 3 paycheck instead of 2 paycheck. What you can do if you have that situation is to write it paycheck 1, paycheck 2, paycheck 3 as a category. And then this will be your paycheck amount of your actual income. So you can enter that in here. This projected is optional. You can fill it out as the same. If you have side hustle commission, then you can also enter it here. That's how you log your income. Once you log your income, then your total, which is here, will then be shown in the cell here. And you can also see it in this diagram, total income versus total expenses. Now moving on to savings. To log your savings is pretty easy. So just log any of your savings here. This is the total of your savings, which will be shown here in the cell, and it also will be shown here. So now how to log your expenses. So to log any of your variable expenses, such as eating out, groceries, and so on, please log them in this variable expenses tracker. So it's pretty straightforward. You log them by entering the date, categories, and amount. So some tips to log your dates. I'll show you an example. So there are two ways you can write your dates. If you want to write your dates in month first and then dates later, you can. And you can also write your dates in dates first and then month. But it will always be displayed in this format though. So if you want to write your dates with month first and then date, you can write the number of the month. So for example, 6th of June first, like that. And then enter your categories, groceries, and for example, it's $55. So yeah, as simple as that. Now, if you want to write the dates first and then month, you can do so by typing the date first and then with no space, just write the month, the first three letters of the month, and then enter. Again, if it's April, the easiest way is obviously you can copy and paste it and then just select the date from there. So as you can see, the month that's selected between these dates are highlighted in bold. That's for easy navigation. So what does it do once you've logged all of your variable expenses of the month or the period you have here? They will then be automatically calculated in this actual column here. So this is an example of eating out. So you have log $90 for eating out and then $75 for eating out and $45 for eating out. So those amounts will be automatically added and calculated in this cell here. And the same with the rest of the categories. So this total amount here is also will be shown in this cell. What is remaining column? So this remaining column is your budget minus actual, which is the left to spend amount. So for eating out, you have $250 budget, and then you've spent $210 for the month, which means that your remaining budget for the month for eating out is $40. And this is your total remaining budget for variable expenses. So now how to log your bills? So you log them here. So if you have $1,500 for the rent of the month, then simply just enter the amount here. Electricity bills, gas bill, and so on. You just simply enter any actual amount under actual column. And the same with debt. Please enter any of your debts in here in this actual column. So the good thing about this spreadsheet is you can see straight away all of your totals in easy view. And this total expenses here is the total of your variable expenses, bills, and debt. So now these checkboxes, these are optional. So if you want to differentiate between paid bills and unpaid bills or paid debt and unpaid debt, then you can utilize this. For example, you've paid rent of the month and then you've paid electricity bill of the month. This will then mark as cross out and grayed out, but it's also be shown in this cell here. Your paid bills and debt is automatically calculated, 1,500 plus 120. So it will be shown here. Then the total amount of paid and unpaid will be reflected in these two cells here. Just a little tips, if you want to check all the checkboxes at one go, you can highlight them and press spacebar. And if you want to uncheck them, you can do the same. So now this summary table, you can see quickly your total income versus total expenses in this diagram here. You can also see your end balance here, which is your start balance plus total income minus total expenses and minus total savings. So the start balance here is whatever you put there. Your total income is extracted from here. And then the same with your total expenses, which is here, and total savings there. So this pie chart here is extracted from your variable expenses. So you'll be able to see for this period, what is your biggest spending in variable expenses. So this is extracted from this table. This is the diagram that's showing your budget versus actual of your variable expenses, bills, and debts. So just by seeing this in a glance, you'll be able to see if you're on track with your budgeting or not. So if you scroll down, this table here is optional. This is if you want to see how much you spend on your needs versus your wants. So please allocate needs and wants to each of this category here. Once you've done that, these tables here will automatically calculate for you your total needs versus your total wants or of the period that you selected in the cells here. So that way you'll be able to track your needs versus wants ratio. This diagram here will show you how much ratio of your income you spend on your needs, wants, savings, and debt. So this pie chart will show you the percentage that you spend 60% on needs, 18% on wants, and then 16% on savings and debt. Now you can set up your goals for that. So if you enter your goals for your needs, wants, and savings and debt, whether you want to have the ratio of 50, 30, and 20, or 60, 20, 20, or 70, 20, and 10, for example. It's really up to you because everyone is different. You do whatever suits your financial situation the best. So once you enter that, these cells here will calculate that based on your income. So that's your goal. And then you'll be able to compare it with your actual. And then this percentage here is your actual breakdown percentage of your needs, wants, and savings and debt. This is really handy to know if you want to prioritize your spending, if you want to prioritize your needs first, so that you'll be able to control your wants, and then hence you'll be able to free up more money for saving and investment, for example. Okay, so now I want to talk about how you can move on to the next period. So there are two ways of doing that. You don't need to duplicate the tab if you don't want to. So for example, you want to move on to July. So as you can see, I've also logged the July here. If you don't want to duplicate the tab and you want to move on from month to month without duplicating the tab, please do not delete the log from previous month. There are over 1,000 rows for this variable expenses tracker. So you can keep logging your expense here to the next rows. So I will move to July and I will show you. Now you can see that the pie chart has been updated. It has now reflected the variable expenses that you logged for the month. You have to remember, if you have different income and different saving, different amount for bills or debt, you have to adjust them. So for example, if your electricity bill is $200, then please adjust them. But if you want to record the previous month, some people don't want to, but if you do want to record the previous month, so what you will do is, that's when you need to duplicate the tab. So please duplicate the tab like that. And then you can rename this to June. And of course, you can check this box and click OK this time. And then you want to rename this July. So don't forget to put this to June. So that will be your June budget dashboard, and this will be your July budget dashboard. So which means that now I can change the electricity bill to $200, whereas when I go to June, you can see the record from previous month. But the one in the colored cell, like the variable expenses, is because you log everything here. Then what would you do if you duplicate the tab? You can log all of your variable expenses of the month of June in the June tab. And then when you go to July, you can log all of your variable expenses for the month of July in the July tab. Remember, you can see the summary of your budget tab in this dashboard as well at the top part here. Your end balance is shown here, which is how much money left you have after all the expenses. This is taken from this cell here, which is your start balance plus income minus expenses and minus savings. Your savings will be displayed here. Remaining budget of all variable expenses is taken from this cell here. You can also see the summary of your total expenses, total variable expenses, total bills, and total debt. Your expenses distribution shown in this pie chart, income versus expenses, and budget versus actual, which is the same with this chart here. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the setup sheet and the rest of the sheets. Before you start, please set up your today's date. To do that, go to File, Settings, and please choose your location and your time zone. I have set up the location of this template to be United States and the time zone to be Central Time, but please feel free to change the location to your country. The same with the time zone. Adjust the time zone to your time zone. It's important to do this accurately because otherwise the formula in the to-do list and monthly planner won't detect your today's date correctly. Once you've done that, please select Save Settings. The setup sheet is where you set up all of your categories. So these goal categories here are the categories for the goals tab here. Your to-do list categories here are the categories for both to-do list sheet and the monthly planner. Your meal planner here are to list all of your meals and recipe for the meal planner sheet. Categories for the groceries sheet are all listed here. So whatever written here are just an example. You can delete them if you want and then start fresh. Then you can type your own categories to suit your needs. Let's start with the goal categories. So if you go to the goals tab, so this is a sheet to help you set your goals. There are 7 goals allowed here. Please start with setting up your goals category here. So this drop down here is what you wrote under setup sheet in these cells here. Feel free to edit this if you like. So once you've done that, they will be translated into this drop down here. So you can choose which category of the goal first. So in this instance is personal growth. Start with writing your goal here, your why, your biggest obstacle here, your reward. What would you like to do once the goal is achieved? I've also allowed some space here in the first row of every goal for inspirational quotes. So all of these in white cells are editable. So you can insert your favorite quote that is related to the goal. This is optional, so you don't have to do it. But if you find any quote that inspire you to achieve your goal, feel free to write it here. This one here is your step by step to get there. So you can write and list your milestone here. Due dates are optional. You can enter your due date. And then, of course, you can use the checkbox to check off each milestone once it's achieved. Once you've done that, you can see that this progress chart will be updated. You can also see the overall progress is also updated. If you want these milestones to appear in your monthly calendar, please write them in the to-do list tab here. Everything that you write in this to-do list will appear automatically in the monthly calendar or monthly planner. That way, you'll also be able to allocate status, priority, category, deadline, and so on. So this column I here is optional. So you can insert your inspirational image here. I'm going to add an extra video tutorial, which you can find in this instruction sheet here for those who wants to know how to copy and paste or insert your image here. So yeah, this sheet could also be your vision board. So feel free to insert any image to each of your goal. That's it. So please repeat the step for goal number 2, goal number 3, and so on. You don't have to use all of the 7 goals, but the space is there. Once you've done that and once you've tracked your progress here using these checkboxes, it will also update this diagram here. So you can see the progress of each of your goals summarized in this bar chart here. Now, if you want to see these examples here in your template, I have kept it there so you can unhide that if you want to see that example. Please go to this icon here and then unhide goals examples so you can see the examples in this video in your template as well. One more thing is this diagram will also be displayed in the dashboard. So if you scroll down, you can see your goals progress is also displayed here. Now, while I'm on the sheet, I'm going to explain a little bit about this dashboard here. So this is a summary of all of the data that you've input in all tabs. It will also display your today's date. Remember to set up your today's date, go to File and Settings. This menu here is just a shortcut, so you can go to any tab just by clicking on each of this cell here. You can go to the Setup tab. You can go to any of the tabs listed here. This task dashboard here is the summary of your to-do list and monthly planner, which I will explain shortly after this. You can see your top 5 most consistent habits, your today's habit progress display in this chart here, goals progress as mentioned earlier, and also your today's meal. Cool, now let's move on to the main part of this template, which is to-do list and monthly planner. So these two sheets, to-do list and monthly planner, they're linked to each other. Everything that you see in this 5 weeks calendar here is automatically populated from the to-do list. So what you wrote here will be automatically populated in this calendar and also from this recurring tasks table, which I will explain shortly. Please do not write inside this calendar, even though these are white cells. This calendar is not designed for you to write directly on it, again, because they're automatically populated from the to-do list sheet and from this table here. Also updated this template so you can now select the start date of this monthly calendar in this cell here, cell H3. Simply double click on the cell. So if you want this to start on Monday, then you can choose the 29th of July. So this calendar will start on Monday, the 29th of July. Then to move on to the next month, you can double click again and then select which date you want the next month to start. So for example, if it's 26th of August, then your September calendar will start on 26th of August. Each date can track up to 8 tasks. If you have more than 8 tasks that day, please reach out to me. Your today's date is automatically highlighted in red. So today is the 15th of March. So the way it works is pretty straightforward. Please start listing your tasks in this sheet here, to-do list. So this is where you can write all of your tasks that will be displayed in that calendar. So these are for the tasks that do have deadlines. Please enter it here by writing the name of the task, the status, priority, category, deadline, which is the date, by double clicking on the cell and choose the date, and the person responsible. You can also add your notes here. So this drop down in these columns here and this one as well. If you want to edit this drop down here, please go to the setup shade. Under to-do list, you can see that you can edit this category here. The same with priority and person responsible. You can't edit the status because I have embedded it into my formula, but you can add more status. So you can add 2 more status in these 2 cells here. So what you wrote here will be automatically populated in this drop down here under this column category in here. So you can select the category per task. The same with the priority. I've put number 1, 2, 3, and 4 so that it's easier for you when you go to the to-do list table here. If you want to sort it by priority, you can click on this little triangle here and then sort from A to Z. Then you'll see that it will sort priority from urgent to low. And that's the same with status and person. And you can add up to 10 persons responsible here. When you go to the to-do list, that will show up in this drop-down. Now, let me give you an example how to enter a task. So, for example, if I want to follow up on an interview, then choose the status. So it's not started. Choose the priority. I'm going to make it high priority. Choose the category under business and then double click on deadline. So when do you want that to show up in the calendar? So for example, if you want it to show up on Wednesday, the 20th of March, I can select that. So when you go to the monthly calendar, you can see that task will pop out under 20th of March here in this cell here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can sort this table by any of this column header here. So if you want to sort it by status, you can. It will sort it by status. If you want to then filter it, you don't want to show done and cancel, you can uncheck that and then select OK. So if you want to reset that, you can check that back and then click OK, then it will be back. If after that you want to sort it by deadline, by earliest date to the latest, you can as well. Click on this little triangle here and then sort A to Z, which means the earliest to the latest. So you can do that by clicking any of this little triangle here if you want to sort it by certain category or priority, deadline, person, status, or task. Okay, so now I want to talk about overdue tasks. Why haven't I put overdue tasks here? Because in this template, overdue tasks are automatically highlighted in orange based on the deadline that you put here. So in my time zone today, currently is the 20th of March. So this column here called days left will automatically calculate all of the tasks that are past the deadline dates, which means you don't have to allocate this task as being overdue because it's automatically highlighted already. It will save you time and it will also help you instantly see which tasks are overdue without having to allocate them one by one. So if they are done or canceled, so for example, I have this overdue task book flight that I've recently done. If I click done, it will be automatically shown as grayed out and no longer highlighted in orange. The same with canceled. If I select canceled here, then it will also grayed out. I'm going to undo that. So yeah, under setup, you can add more status in this 2 cell here, but don't add overdue status because in this template, it's already automatically marked for you. So yeah, that way you can see at a glance which ones are complete or canceled tasks because they are shown in gray, which ones are overdue tasks highlighted in orange, and you can see at a glance the difference between them and incomplete tasks. The other thing that is automatically highlighted is urgent tasks. So if, for example, I want to mark this as urgent, it will also automatically highlight it in this color here. That overdue task is also automatically calculated in this cell here. So there are a total of 4,000 rows. You won't run out of rows. So all of these tasks here will be automatically populated to your monthly calendar. You can also see them automatically populated in this table here just for information. This is isolating just the tasks from the period of this date that is shown here in this calendar, which in this instance is the 26th of February until the 31st of March. I've added a feature called recurring task table. So this is if you have any recurring tasks that don't have deadlines. You can set up the start date and frequency so that they can appear automatically recurring in this monthly calendar based on the start date and the frequency. But because it's automatically populated as recurring, you won't be able to allocate status to each of these tasks. Example is the 7 a.m. yoga class. I have put the start date as 26th of February and then the frequency. So basically the frequency, you can choose 3 different frequency, daily, weekly, and bi-weekly. Because if it's monthly, then there's no need to use this recurring task because you do have to reset the start date each month. So if you have a monthly task, you need to put it in the to-do list sheet. So yeah, I've set up yoga class starting the 26th of February as daily. So now you can see yoga class appear daily on all of the 5 weeks in this calendar. Now, once you move on to the next month calendar, you do have to reset this date. So yeah, if you have recurring tasks that you want to show in this calendar without having to allocate the status of done, canceled, or ongoing, feel free to use this because it will save you time. These are the examples. So if I want to water my plants every bi-weekly from the 2nd of March, I can list it here and it will appear these water plants bi-weekly up until the end of this calendar. But then when I move on to the next month, I would have to reset the date for the next month's date. I think it's good to review this task every month anyways. So you have the chance to review, alter it at the beginning of each month. So this table called automatic highlighter is if you want to highlight your task on the calendar in a certain color by category, then you can use this table here. Super easy to use. All you need to do is allocate a category per color. Remember, you can go to the Setup tab and edit those categories in this table here. So these categories are fully editable. So in this instance, I've allocated business for this color, and you can see all of my tasks under business category are all highlighted in dark gray. And then I've allocated health under this color here. So all of the tasks under the health category is highlighted in yellow here. These colors can't be changed. Yeah, so up to 6 categories allowed to be highlighted in these colors here. So if I deleted all of this, for example, if you prefer them not to be highlighted in colors, if you like to keep it clean, minimalistic, and simple, you can have that option as well. So simply don't allocate any colors here and none of your tasks will be highlighted in colors. So the other feature here called do not show is if you want to just show all of your tasks that are not done, you can filter it here. So for example, I don't want to see all of my tasks that are done. You can see that it will just show you all the tasks that are ongoing, not started, or canceled. But if I also don't want to see any tasks that are canceled, I can filter it further. So feel free to use that. Remember that it won't filter this recurring task because you can't allocate status to this task. So all of your recurring tasks will always show in this calendar. Remember that this recurring task is optional. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. You can manually enter all of your recurring tasks in the to-do list if you want to allocate status like done, canceled, and ongoing, and so on. So the option is there. Now I just want to explain while we've just discussed to-do list and monthly planner, let's go to the dashboard for a bit. So this task dashboard here is the summary of your to-do list and monthly planner. So this pie chart here is showing the ratio of your tasks by category. So all of the charts that you see in this dashboard automatically filter the tasks that are not done and not canceled. This also includes the recurring tasks that you input in the monthly planner. Your today's tasks are also automatically displayed here based on today's date. Your tomorrow's tasks also automatically displayed here. And then all of your overdue tasks are automatically displayed here. I've added these white cells here. If you need to add last minute tasks for today and tomorrow that don't need to be shown in the calendar, sometimes I just want to write a very quick note, something that pops up in my head. but it's not the type of task that I want to go to-do list and list everything there with all of the categories. It's just something that pops in my head and I want it to be part of my today's task, and the same with tomorrow's task. So that's where you can add those type of notes here, and then you can also check them as you go. It will be crossed out once it's done. And of course, this is automated. So this is today's date so when tomorrow arrives, these here are not automated. So you can just delete this. So it's ready for you to write your last minute today's task and tomorrow. Okay, now so these 4 columns here is where you can quickly filter and see the list of your tasks per category or priority or status or by person. So if I select business, it will automatically display all of your tasks under the business category that are not done and not cancelled. If I go to urgent, it will display all of your tasks that are urgent. And the same by status. If I put filter by not started, it will show all of the tasks that is not started. And you can also filter it by person. So this is your habit tracker sheet. So this is how you can track your daily habits here by checking off these boxes here on the day you've completed them. This row here displays your day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on by the first letter of the day. And this row here displays the dates. Your daily progress is shown in this bar chart here and is also displayed as percentage in this row here. Your today's date is automatically highlighted in red. You can see the number of weeks displayed here at the top part, and also the month is displayed here. So now if you scroll all the way to the right, the bottom here there is a bar. If you scroll all the way to the right, you can see there are 52 weeks allowed in this habit tracker. So you can track up to week 52. So this column here is your day number 1. To set up your start date here, please go to this cell, double click and select your start date. I'm selecting the 26th of February. But to give you an example, I can start at any date. So I can start, for example, on the 15th of February. So day 1 will automatically update, and also the rest of the dates and the rest of the weeks will automatically update accordingly. So in this example, I want to start on the 26th of February. So the next thing to do is to list or write your daily habits in this column here. Feel free to delete or rename these. So these are fully editable. You can edit, rename, or write any daily habits that suits your needs, and track them by checking off these boxes on the day you've completed them. Feel free to hide these columns if you want. So if you want to hide all of the weeks that have been completed, you can select all columns at once by pressing Shift and then select the last column, right click, and then hide column. That way the checkboxes are closer to the habits, so it's easier to track things. These 2 columns here are the summary of your progress to date. So this is the percentage, which is your progress to date, and this is the number of days completed, and it can track up to 52 weeks. So you'll be able to track your habit in a yearly cycle. So you can see completion rate and the number of days completed of each of your habits displayed here. In these examples, I have done 21 days of 10 minutes meditation, which is a completion rate of 84%. So those are automatically calculated for you here. And also, when you reach 90% completion, it will automatically highlight them in gray. And that's the same case for the days here. So if I unhide this, you can see whenever it hits over 90%, they will be automatically highlighted in gray. Your today's habit progress is automatically displayed in this cell here. And your overall habit progress to date, is automatically displayed in this cell here. Your most consistent to least consistent habits are displayed in this column here. If you scroll down, you can also write your weekly habits in these rows here and then check them off as you go. So this is your mood tracker. You can find this under Habit Tracker tab here. This is where you can track your mood score every day. The same with the habit tracker, this row indicates the day and this row indicates the date. Please enter your mood score in this row every day by selecting from the drop down here, with the lowest score indicates your lowest mood, and all the way up to the higher score 5 indicates really good mood. So I'll show you once you allocate that for each and every day. You can see that this row will populate the emoji associated with the number, as well as the chart. So at the end, you can see your emotional pattern display here, your weekly mood score display here, and then your yearly score average display in this cell here. In the dashboard, your today's mood will be displayed in this cell here. If you need guidance on how to use this meal planner, feel free to watch the video tutorial on Rofo on the instruction tab here.